Hi everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of the UWC application process. So this video is going to cover the interview rounds. These are probably the most stressful rounds. Next to the finalist weekend. The finalist weekend is very stressful, but not as stressful. So the interview rounds will consist of a 1-hour long Skype interview with 2 people from the application committee. And they typically schedule them early January. Mine was the second week of January, and you have to reserve a spot and everything, so plan accordingly. But anyways, so preparing for your interview. There is really no way that you can prepare yourself for the questions that are going to be asked. And I know when I was applying, I was watching all these videos, wondering what they would ask you during the interview. And I can honestly say, even if I shared the questions in my interview, they would not help you at all because they were so specifically tailored to my application, they wouldn't really make any sense. To prepare, I just had my family ask me mock interview questions. My father, my mother, even my sister got on it, and they were just asking me questions left and right. They just surprised me with questions. So when I was doing the dishes, they'd surprise me with a question. Or when I was eating dinner, they'd surprise me with a question, trying to catch me off guard and make sure that I'm kind of ready to answer questions when I'm not expecting. Another thing that I found really helped was asking help from my teachers. So I mentioned my mentor in a previous video, and she was super sweet. She was so helpful throughout my entire application process and so supportive. And one of the things that she did that I really appreciate was that she let me schedule office hours with her. And during those office hours, I would sit down with her and she would look over my application and she would ask me very specific questions about my application to me, and I'd have to answer them. And it really helped me pick out what I needed to work on during an interview because I'm just a sophomore. I've never really done very serious interviews before. So having her look over my application and helping me pick out all of the small details that I needed to look at and work on before my interview really helped me. So one of the things that she said that I did that may help you guys is that, especially during an interview, when answering a question, I'd kind of not fully answer it. And this meaning that, I love to tell stories. I'm a storyteller. I love writing, and a lot of other human beings do. And, they like to share their experiences and share what led up to that experience. But especially during an interview, when it's you have a limited amount of time, she'd ask me a question. I'd tell this huge story, kind of leading up to it. And then I'd get lost and I'd go in a tangent and I'd go down a rabbit hole, and then I wouldn't fully answer the question that was asked to me. So what she recommended that I do is either tell a sentence leading up to my answer, tell the answer, and then tell the rest of the story, or just say the answer and then tell the story behind it. Because that way you get the question answered, and then you can add on to whatever story you'd like to tell. And then the actual interview, mine was on a weekend. The first 15 minutes were reserved for parents, so my parents Skyped in and they asked, frequently asked questions such as, what would happen if my child got accepted? Where would she go? How would we pay the tuition? Questions like that. And then after the 15 minutes, they kick your parents out, and then the last 45 minutes are reserved for you. And I can honestly say I was so relieved that they couldn't see my bottom half just because I was shaking so much. I had my hands in my lap, and I was just like playing with my fingers and my legs were shaking. It was really bad. But after 20 minutes, I felt super comfortable. They were super nice. One of the first things that they said to me was, "We are not here to mess you up, make you feel scared." Kind of were like making sure that I knew that they weren't here to judge me. And at first I was kind of like, yeah, sure. That's what all interviewers say. But I can honestly say that was so true. They made me feel so welcome. They were so nice. And 20 minutes in, we were like all talking like we were friends. Um, and the 45 minutes flew by, and I didn't even realize that my interview was over until they were like, "Oh, Lily, we kind of have to move on to the next person. Do you have any questions for us?" Use this to your advantage, by the way. The questions part. Come prepared with some questions. You won't know. Well, actually, they do tell you that one UWC person, or like who your UWC interviewers are going to be. My interviewers were two UWC alumni, so one from UWC Mahindra and then one from UWC USA. So what I did was I asked them questions about their personal UWC experience, because keep in mind, this is not just them getting to know you and getting to know if you're a good fit for UWC. It's you also getting to know what UWC is like, what living at UWC is like. Is UWC the best fit for me? And so asking them questions, especially alumni, if you're lucky enough to have some, I asked them questions about, what did you take away from your UWC experience? What was the hardest thing about being at UWC? Do you think UWC set you up for your future careers? Questions like that that are more personal, that somebody would be able to answer based upon their UWC experience. And it really gave me a good idea of, is UWC the right fit for me or is it not? And if you don't get UWC alumni as your interviewer, you'll probably get retired college admissions officers. Please keep in mind the entire UWC USA application committee is made up of volunteers dedicating their time to, really looking at your application and making sure that you guys have the best experience you can while applying through UWC. So always give them a very big thank you after the application process is finished. But you might get retired admissions officers from different colleges, and although they aren't UWC alumni, they do know what UWC is. They do know about the UWC movement. So you can ask them questions about like, why does UWC appeal to you? What do you see in UWC that is so special that sets it apart from other colleges? Things like that. And questions like that will really let you get a sense of what UWC is. So that is it for the interview round. Thank you so much for watching, and part 3 will be up soon. Bye!